Welcome to Grenada Co-operative Bank's Half Year's Performance 2021 Media Briefing. I am Patricia Hagley. A warm welcome to all our listeners and viewers locally and in the diaspora, and also to all invited media houses participating here today. This briefing is in keeping with our customer promise and regulatory commitment to keep the public updated on the bank's performance. Today, we will provide you with the bank's half-year financial results, along with the results of the audit of our customer service charter for the fiscal year 2021. Allow me to introduce this morning's panelists. Chairman of the Board of Directors, Mr. Daryl Braffett. Chief Operating Officer, Mr. Dion Moses. Executive Manager, Finance, Mr. Aaron Logie. And Manager, Customer Care, Mr. Roger Duncan. We will begin this morning's proceedings with a statement from our Chairman Director, Daryl Braffett.
Good morning, everybody, listeners and viewers of Co-op Bank's half-year performance media briefing. We will share with you our financial results for the first 6 months of the financial year 2021, that is October to March, and the results of the independent audit of our customer service charter. Additionally, we will update you on how the bank is bolstering its corporate social responsibility program to lessen the impact from the fallout of the COVID-19 pandemic on our society. Finally, I will announce the Managing Director Designate who will replace Mr. Richard W. Duncan, the incumbent, when he retires in December of this year. Financial results. The bank posted a commendable first half performance. Profit after tax unaudited for the first 6 months ended March 31st, 2021 amounted to $6.2 million. This is a reduced profit when compared with the same period last year by $1.1 million. That's 15%. Reflecting the subdued economic circumstances in which we are operating. Total assets now stand at $1.4 billion, an increase of 12% or $155 million for the first 6 months of the financial year. Customer deposits increased by $127 million, that's 11%, from $1.15 billion at September 30th, 2020 to $1.27 billion at March 31st, 2021. The bank's capital adequacy, solvency, and non-performing loan ratios all remain within regulatory requirements, with the non-performing loans ratio at 27.27%, which has been consistently maintained below the prudential benchmark of less than 5%. The narrative on the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic is only too familiar. The environment is characterized by high unemployment, very low economic growth, and falling government revenues. Given the current difficulties and the uncertainties which lie ahead, the bank is steadfastly implementing risk management strategies to cushion the impact of the pandemic on our customers and to protect the balance sheet. We continue to monitor this situation closely. The board remains committed to ensuring that financial objectives are met at the year end. Audit of the customer service charter. With a satisfaction ratio of 79%, Co-op Bank's customers have again reaffirmed their high level of satisfaction with the bank. This is so despite a rapidly growing customer base and an increasingly competitive environment which has placed increased pressures on our resources in recent times. Further high-level details of the results of the 2021 independent audit of the bank's customer service charter will be presented by Mr. Dion Moses, Chief Operating Officer. On behalf of all directors, I extend our sincere appreciation to the staff of the bank for such an impressive performance, and to all our customers for your continued patronage. Corporate Social Responsibility Program. As a society, our response to the COVID-19 pandemic must be measured and purposeful. We have bolstered our corporate social responsibility program to lessen the medium to long-term impact of the fallout of COVID-19 on our society. Education is one of the pillars of the bank's corporate social responsibility program. Customers have invested in our education investment plan, and we have rewarded them with star points on our scholarship programs. We are quite certain that the next few years will be extremely difficult for business, including our bank and individuals alike. However, it will be more difficult, even tragic, if we as a society falter on the educational needs of our children. Therefore, the bank has bolstered the educational pillar of its corporate social responsibility program. Mr. Roger Duncan, Manager, Customer Care, will outline the high-level details later in this briefing. Managing Director Designate. At this point, I publicly announce the retirement of Mr. Richard W. Duncan from the bank. He retires on December 5th, 2021. He joined the bank in 1996 and has been the Managing Director since 2008. Mr. Duncan has contributed immensely to the growth, development, and advancement of the bank over the last 25 years. He will be replaced by Mr. Larry Lawrence, who has 27 years of success as a career banker. He has a strong work ethic, is self-driven, client-focused, and results-oriented. He's a Grenadian and comes with a wealth of experience and knowledge from one of the foreign banks operating in the Eastern Caribbean and wider CARICOM region. Thank you. I now invite our Chief Operating Officer, Mr. Dion Moses, to present the findings of the audit of our Customer Service Charter 2021.
A pleasant good morning to you members of the media, and I thank you for accepting our invitation to this press conference for yet another year to share with you the results of the audit of Grenada Co-operative Bank's Customer Service Charter. In 2011, Grenada Co-operative Bank Limited publicly affirmed its commitment to its customers to provide an excellent customer service experience. The service standards that we undertook to deliver are publicly disclosed in our Customer Service Charter. This charter is the assurance given on the standards that can be expected from Co-op Bank. It is our commitment to continually strive to improve our service and build relationships with you, our customers. It focuses on two important aspects. One, our commitment to you to always deliver excellent service. And two, our promises on the standards of service you can expect from us. Our charter states that annually we will conduct an independent audit to measure our performance against our charter promises. Today we reveal these results. All the promised areas in the charter have been audited, that is, our telephone service, banking facilities, account opening procedures, electronic banking services, loan processing, and staff attributes. We are very delighted to present the results of our 2021 performance. Overall customer satisfaction ratings are as follows. Co-op Bank has registered improved overall customer satisfaction ratings for 2021, with 79% of customers indicating they were satisfied with the bank. That's a 3 percentage points increase over the previous year and a 9 percentage points increase over the benchmark of what is an acceptable standard. This was despite a rapidly growing customer base, an increasingly competitive environment, and the socioeconomic impacts of a global pandemic, which have placed increased pressures on its resources in recent times. On aggregate, Co-op Bank's customers have affirmed a high level of satisfaction with the bank, with an overall exceptional rating of 97%. we continue to strive to improve our service delivery by ensuring each customer of Co-op Bank receives service that is incomparable and of high quality. At Co-op Bank, we take pride in providing our customers with a comfortable environment whenever they conduct business with us. It was not surprising that our banking facilities were commendably rated for being suited to persons with special needs, having adequate signage, being safe and secure, and customers were confident that their personal information was private. On average, our banking facilities were rated by our customers as being very comfortable, achieving an average rating of 91%. While calls were not always answered within 3 rings, our customer service representatives were highly rated for being courteous and helpful, handling questions and problems received over the telephone satisfactorily. The average rating for our telephone service is maintained at an average of 77%, and that has been constant over the last 3 years. At Co-op Bank, we are committed to ensuring that our account opening procedures are simple and the amount required for opening an account remains the lowest in the industry. On average, our customers felt that we fulfill our promise to them by giving us an excellent rating of 91%. While our loan processing standards were not always met, we continued to record steady improvements in our response time to retail loan applications. Our loan fees remain affordable despite the challenges of the market. There has been an impressive increase of customers' rating of us on loan processing, climbing to 71%, a 9 percentage point increase over 2020. We continue to operate in a highly competitive environment and will do our best to meet the needs of our customers by building deeper relationships. To cope with our growing customer base, and especially the generations X and Y, we continue to provide reliable electronic banking services to our valued customers. On average, our rating in this category this year is 87%, and we remain committed to strengthen our electronic banking platforms to ensure that they provide practical financial solutions, especially in the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, and that it remains swift, simple, and secure. Indeed, features of our electronic banking service are already widely and popularly known. Our staff attributes continue to receive exceptional ratings this year, an average of 93%, for being responsive to customers' needs, friendly and courteous, and maintaining a professional appearance. We remain committed to ensuring that we provide highly competent, well-trained staff to serve our valued customers, and this rating suggests that our customers are more than satisfied with the high level of service received from our staff. Again, Co-op Bank is particularly pleased with these results, given the rapidly growing customer base and an increasingly competitive environment which has placed increased pressures on our resources in recent times. Co-op Bank remains committed to providing a superior experience to our customers and all stakeholders of the bank at all times. I thank you, and I now invite our Manager Customer Care, Roger Duncan, to provide a report on our corporate social responsibility.
Good morning, members of the media, to our viewers and listeners. The COVID-19 pandemic has the potential to create a lost generation of children and impede the rate of our social and economic development. Grenada Co-operative Bank believes that a good education opens doors and contributes greatly to the long-term well-being of individuals, families, communities, and the country. Therefore, the bank remains steadfast in its commitment to invest in the educational development of its young customers through our Super Starter Education Investment Plan, well known as Super Starter EIP, which offers opportunities to its beneficiaries to receive scholarships annually. In 2020, the pandemic had a significant impact on the financial resources of members of the community and created challenges in the educational realm for children without the means to participate fully in the new virtual learning environment. Recognizing these challenges, Co-op Bank decided to enhance the Super Starter EIP program to benefit more students in more ways. The silver and gold category scholarships, which contribute toward primary and secondary school expenses respectively, have now been increased from 1 scholarship each per parish to 4 scholarships each per parish, a total of 28 scholarships per category. And for the first time last year, 26 scholarships were awarded to students enrolled in the plan to cover expenses for the remainder of their primary school education and secondary school. Gold scholarship winners also received 1 laptop computer to enhance their learning experience. Biannual Platinum category scholarship, which afforded 1 individual enrolled in the plan the ability to pursue university education in any subject area, anywhere in the world, is now enhanced to include 1 additional beneficiary, expanded to include now 3 beneficiaries to pursue education at T.A. Marshall Community College, TAMCC. The TAMCC scholarship winners also received 1 laptop computer to assist with their studies. All scholarships are for throughout the lifetime of the student's primary, secondary, or tertiary school life, depending on the type of plan owned. Again, this year, approximately 59 students across our nation will benefit from such scholarships. Star Points. The bank enhanced the awards for academic excellence through Star Points, which were also awarded to students of the Super Starter Education Investment Plan. There was an increased contribution to $5 for each Grade A or Grade 1 received, which is added to the plan. The bank encourages all customers enrolled in the plan to remain committed and enjoy the benefits of the program. In response to the negative fallouts from the COVID-19 pandemic, the bank has placed buffering measures to ensure that customers are still able to maintain and enjoy the benefits of their plans. Treatment of late payments or non-payments. Late payments or non-payments into the plan up to December 31st, 2021 will not result in plan cancellation. Plans with late payments or non-payments between March of last year and December 31st of this year will be deemed to be in good standing and be eligible for the scholarship draws. For 12 years, Co-op Bank has invested over $934,000 in this program and has undrawn commitments to date of approximately $640,000. Therefore, in total, Co-op Bank's committed contribution to this scholarship program to date is approximately $1.6 million, of which half of that sum have been spent or committed just within 2 years. This investment by Grenada Co-operative Bank is an investment in the future of our nation's children. It's an investment in the future of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. Many awardees from this scholarship program have moved on to higher learning and attained university degrees in information technology, hospitality, accounting, banking, finance, just to name a few. By way of this, the quality of lives of many households have improved tremendously, while Co-op Bank's EIP scholarship awardees' contribution to national development is ongoing. Co-op Bank holds true to its corporate mission when we say that, with Grenadian pride, we improve the lives of our customers through the provision of high-quality financial services while ensuring a fair return to our shareholders and contributing to the well-being of the citizens where we operate. Thank you.
Thank you, panelists. We have reached a point in our program where we will now entertain questions or feedback from our invited media personnel. While the media prepare their questions, we will ask some questions that came in before to the panelists. What are your expectations for the performance of the bank for the rest of your financial year?
Good morning, audience. For the remaining 6 months of the year, we are expecting the bank to follow a similar trajectory for the first 6 months. That depends a lot on the rate of recovery in the domestic economy. And the recovery rate is driven by a number of macroeconomic factors. And one of those would be the reopening of the St. George University by August of this year, as well as the expected turnaround in the tourism industry, with international airlines resuming their connections to Grenada as early as June of this year. However, in spite of that, we are still confident that even if there are delays in the reopening, that we can continue the same path for the first 6 months and give a credible results by the end of September 2021, which is our financial year end.
Thank you, Mr. Logie. Another question just coming in. How comfortable should customers be in the security of their deposits and stability of the bank at this time of a global economic downturn?
If you remember the last global economic downturn in 2008, it was decided at that point that the banks needed to shore up their capital, to have more capital available to withstand these type of shocks. And it was a good thing. Our regulatory authority, the ECCB, insisted that we comply and keep up with the agreements which were struck in Basel, Switzerland. The Basel III agreement requires a higher percentage of capital for the banks to have, Tier 1 capital, and we are well ahead of schedule in achieving those objectives. This provides the depositors with more security and strengthens the bank so it can withstand more economic shocks.
Thank you, Director. I'm seeing a question coming in from Ms. Linda Straker. Good morning, Ms. Straker.
Good morning to you and members of the panel. I have a couple of questions. Yesterday, the World Bank released a report that showed that despite what is happening in the US in 2020, remittances to this region would have been stable, and in the case of Latin America and the Caribbean, it increased. I am aware that the bank would have made, earlier we were told there was a tax profit of 6.2 million. I know that when people send money through the wire transfer and other services, there is a charge for that. Is the bank in a position to tell us whether or not from its record there were increased wire transfers from persons in the diaspora to persons in Grenada, which would have aided in the profitability? My other question has to do with, can you tell us whether or not for the period on the review, which is the 6 months, whether the bank experienced increased foreclosure as to compare with the same period last year?
We have seen increased wires. We have seen increased business from the diaspora over the last 6 months, but unfortunately, I'm not in a position now to give the exact percentage increase in wires. But I can confirm, yes, there was an increase over the last 6 months. The second question related to in foreclosures. We have seen a decrease in foreclosures, not just in Co-op Bank, but across the industry. But I can say that because of the moratorium given to many persons who are now without jobs, they were given a lifeline, so to speak, so that even though the loans are not being paid, there's not going to be any foreclosure action on the part of any of the financial institutions. And the hope is that we can continue to work with persons even after the moratorium periods end, most of them in September of this year.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Moses. And just as you've answered this question, we have another one coming in, just following up on that answer. On the heels of the pandemic, Co-op Bank has quickly responded to assist customers by offering loan payment deferrals. Is this going to be an ongoing program? And what can the bank do to assist its customers in what is still a difficult financial time?
The moratorium, the loan deferral that the questioner asked about, is the moratorium that I just mentioned. That is the tool that was employed by the financial institutions to help people through the crisis. Now, to do that, we got a concession from the central bank. That concession comes to an end on September 30th. We are hopeful, as Mr. Logie said, that the SGU will reopen as scheduled in August, and that eventually the hospitality sector, the hotel sector, will be back on its feet, so that many of the hundreds of persons who are now unemployed can again start to earn income. Now, if for some reason some people are unable at that point to resume payments, the bank stands ready to work with these people on a one-on-one basis to come up with good workout solutions to help them going forward.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moses. Another question just coming in, if we don't have any from the media at the moment. How has the performance of the bank been affected by the moratorium Mr. Moses just spoke about, offered on our customer loans?
Well, the moratorium has not negatively impacted our bank. Essentially, what ECB has granted us is that we allow as banks to continue accruing the interest on the loans in spite of the fact that we were not collecting cash. And this is allowed based on the accounting rules that once the loans are good, we can continue accruing the interest on it. In spite of that, the bank in the first 6 months, out of prudence, has upped the provisions made for those loans, just in case in the long run, as we know that some of them might go bad if the economy does not turn around as expected. However, thus far, we are not affected negatively from an income standpoint.
Thank you so much, Mr. Logie. I'm seeing some other questions coming in from Linda Straker. Ms. Straker, please proceed.
Yes, thanks again. One of the areas of concern, as we deal with a lot more with ICT, is people, hackers, and having to deal with cybersecurity. Can you tell us what, in terms of the bank having to deal with that, was it a major issue for the period under review? And if there was an issue, what was the what would have caused that issue? The other question I have has to do with your chatter improvements. What area of improvement was identified from the survey that was conducted among the clients?
Security has every customer has responsibility for security. The bank has responsibility. The customer has a responsibility. We know that no amount of systems that you have in place can deter scammers from scamming customers. So it's important that the customer plays their part. Now, we have undertaken a number of education sessions, sensitization sessions, that will help customers understand all the issues around securing their cards and personal identification numbers and so on. One of the things that, some of the things that we have advocated, especially when you're shopping, you don't want to lose sight of your debit card. You always want to ensure that while it is being processed by the cashier, that you have sight of it. Your personal identification number, you don't want to give that to anyone. That must be something personal for you, not even for your relatives or friends. Always ensure that your debit card is securely put away and is always on your possession. You will get emails from time to time from scammers, and in fact, we have seen an increase since the onset of the COVID-19, what we call COVID-19 scammers, trying to defraud customers, sending you email, hoping that you will click on the email and that it will ask you a number of questions. You will probably be offered all sorts of benefits to win prizes and so on if you provide this information and so on. Now, you never want to give anyone your personal identification, your passwords to any email address or your account numbers and so on. These are suspicious. When you find that there is any suspicious email that you have received and you are in doubt, feel free to always contact the bank and or provide or send us an email just to confirm whether this has been an authentic email, especially if it's been disguised around an email coming from the bank. You can provide feedback to us through feedback@GrenadaCoOpBank.com, or you contact us through the website. You want to be sure too that when you're registering your card on sites, that those are really secured sites. And in fact, if you're not the sole user of your phone or iPad or desktop and so on, you ought to exercise, customers ought to exercise extreme care in storing card information, because any other users of these devices can actually have access to funds when making purchases on sites. So our social media pages, particularly Facebook and Instagram, has a plethora of information with respect to looking out for scams, identifying them, and all the security that your customers need to undertake with their card and personal information. With respect to the question on the customer service charter, we overall at 79% has been a very remarkable rating. We have seen increases in our telephone experience, 3 percentage points over 2020, sorry. We have also seen increases in our promises on our staff attributes, our promises on our account opening procedures. And with specific to the account opening procedures, one of the things that we have now undertaken that will buffer and help with the customer experience in that process is your now ability to get onto our website and begin the process of opening your account, as well as booking an appointment with one of our officers. Other increases in our customer service charter promise areas came with our certain areas of our electronic banking, as well as our loan processing, retail loan processing. So generally, room for improvement, but we have received a remarkable rating, 9 percentage points over the acceptable benchmark standard of 70 by our customers.
Thank you so much.
If I could just seek some clarity, please. Mr. Duncan went on to explained so much about the hackers and so forth. I have two questions pertaining to that. Can you explain why the bank do not allow a person who would like to open a second account just to trade online? So they will limit the cash in it and you can just transfer from another cash. Because I tried to do that and I was told I could only have one account. And secondly, recently I saw online that persons from the US in particular were complaining of the bank asking about certain information, the banking information in the US as it pertains to for tax deductibles and so forth. Can you explain, are you in a position to explain why the bank is may have to provide or request from them certain information when it comes to the US transaction, please? Thanks.
I will answer the second question first. Roger will answer the first question. There is an act in the US, we refer to it as FATCA. It is called the Foreign Account Tax Act. It is a US bit of legislation, but it affects everyone across the world. That act places the onus on all financial institutions to report to the IRS in the US on everybody that is considered to be a US person who banks with you. And they have a definition for what is considered to be a US person. They have certain indicators that any one of them that is present in your banking system will indicate that that person is a US person. The onus would then be on that person to say, yes, I am, or no, I am not a US person. These will include things like if you have a US address. So if you have a postal US address, and some people have boxes that they use in the US, well, that makes you a US person until you can prove otherwise. Or if you have a US phone number, if you have a power of attorney acting on someone with a US number. So there are a number of things that in the act says you are a US person. Now, the act also requires us to get information from US persons. So we need to either have your tax ID number or your social security number. And most times that we write to customers, we actually write to them to obtain that number. We know it's not something that customers will be happy about. It is something that is completely outside of the control of the banks, the governments, the entire region. If we don't comply, it's as simple as that. The bank can actually be, well, literally shut down. So we must comply with this act, and we need to report using certain information. We are not required to report on every single person that's a US person. You have to meet certain minimum balance requirements, and we let people know that in the correspondence to them. I think that is what you're referring to, Ms. Straker, that information when we write to collect to customers. And we try also to explain to them why we require the information. So in the letter, they will see that it is because of this legislation. So this is what is taking place in a nutshell.
Before Mr. Duncan would respond to my other question, are you in a position to explain? I know you shared some example of a US person, but some people they believe that it was actually for citizens of the US. So you do not have to be a citizen to be classified as a US citizen.
You don't have to be a US citizen to be classified. The list is extensive, and like I explained, it could be something as simple as just having a US phone number. So for people who used to have Magic Jack and so on, and then you're given a US number, you would be considered a US person. But you had an opportunity to prove that you were not. And hence we write to people to either say yay or nay. If it is yay, then we require one of two bits of information from you, which I said again is the tax number or the social security number, and then we are required to report on you at the end of June every year to the IRS.
Mr. Duncan, Roger.
Right. So with respect to the number of accounts, there is a restriction on the number of regular savings account that one can open after March 31st of 2015. Right. Persons prior to that would have had more than one savings account, but the restriction is to one regular savings. However, there are other type of accounts that there is no restriction as to the number that you can have. So to facilitate any special arrangement as to how you manage your financial affairs, you can have more than one demand deposit accounts, for example, more than one fixed deposit account, and so on. But the restriction is just specific to the regular savings.
Thank you. Ms. Straker, do you have any more questions? I'm seeing one coming in from Ms. Nisha Paul. Ms. Paul, please proceed.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Nisha Paul, the New Today newspaper. Earlier, it was said in response to a question, I think, that Ms. Straker asked, that the ECCB allows for the bank to accrue interest on loans, even though it is not being paid. Is it a situation where, can you explain whether or not it's a situation where the moratorium is granted on the loan, but the interest goes up every month, so then the customer would be incurring additional, I'm trying to understand if it's a situation where the interest goes up continually on a monthly basis during the period of the moratorium. Can you explain?
Yes, and the answer to that question is yes. The interest is accrued. What the ECCB allows the banks to do during this period is to accrue the interest, but not collect it and take it into your profit. So it gives the customer some breathing space in that you don't pay a loan, but the loan is not considered to be in arrears. And that is why I said earlier on that there was no increase in foreclosures, because most of these loans are not considered to be in arrears. It is just that there is this period we give you. It's a grace period, so to speak. But at the end of the day, the interest needs to be collected. We have to remember that the money lent to you was taken from depositors. And at the end of the day, they expect to get interest on their deposits also. So yes, interest is accrued. It has to be paid at a later date. So people who have the moratorium now would need to come into the bank later on to more or less restructure the debt. The bank would do all in its power to work with each one based on means, and to make sure that there is affordability and that no one is left out in the dark. But yes, that is exactly so. The bank also continues its education to customers about moratoriums, and at any one point in time anybody starts getting income again, we advise you to immediately start paying once you can afford it, so as to avoid too much of an accrual, so that the debt is insurmountable at the end of the day.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moses. Ms. Paul, do you have any other questions at this time?
Yes, please. Can you say by how much percent does the interest go up, or is it dependent on the individual loans itself?
Yes, it depends on the interest rate charged on the specific loan. So it is a case-by-case basis, and it is what was expressed in your original contract.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mr. Moses. We've just received a question on shares. What are the prospects for increases in the value of GCBL shares? Mr. Logie?
Well, the prospects are good. The increase in value of the shares is dependent on the profitability of the bank and the confidence that shareholders express in the management and governance of the bank. But I could just remind viewers that the return on the shares as an investor, it comes from two sources. One, the annual dividend that we pay to our shareholders. But before we pay dividends, the bank will also keep back a portion of the profits, which we add to the capital. That goes on to increase the net book value of the shares. So based on the performance of the bank over the last 5 years and what we project to happen over the next 5 or so years, we expect the bank to continue making profits, continue to keep back some to increase the capital and increase the net book value of the shares, as well as pay our shareholders a dividend. So the prospects for shareholders are good.
Thank you so much, Mr. Logie. Another question just in. What is the bank doing specifically to protect staff and customers at the retail banking units in light of the pandemic?
Well, there are several things, but the main point is that the Ministry of Health, the government, outlines the rules that need to be followed. Each country has its own guidelines as to how soon they should open their borders and how soon what is allowed. As you can see, it's a grand global experiment, but what we do, we follow the Ministry of Health guidelines, which we are already familiar with. I think the population, 6 foot social distancing. We have cleaners who come in with industrial strength cleaners, especially to focus on the hard, heavy traffic areas, the hard surfaces. The staff have to do a clean down every hour. It's quite intensive. There are temperature checks, and the meetings are held, even internal meetings with 6 foot distancing. There's hand sanitization in all the branches and so on. But in addition to the standard protocols, which everyone is familiar with, we also have stepped up the alternative banking solutions, like e-banking. You're familiar with that already. Mm-hmm. There was a slow uptake initially, a slower uptake, but as people realize, as the lines are getting longer at the banks because of the distancing, it's more convenient to use the e-services. Increased use of the debit card, at merchants, and online purchasing in particular, because if you're not going out to purchase, well, really, you could even see in Grenada now some merchants are doing home deliveries, and you have to pay for these things somehow. So the online purchasing using a debit card, and the recent introduction of the digital Eastern Caribbean currency. So now you can make payments using your phone. So those are the 3 alternative solutions, and we have seen even with meetings that people weren't using Zoom much before the pandemic, but now it's like everybody knows how to use Zoom, even for family get-togethers and so on. So the pandemic has been a catalyst in modernization and speeding up alternative solutions to problems.
Thank you so much, Chairman. We've just gotten a question on complaints handling. From the results of this year's audit of the Customer Service Charter, we recognize a decreased rating by customers in complaints handling. What are the bank's plans in addressing this?
We believe that we have had some shortcomings with the effective management of our complaints, and the increasing pressures from the onset of the COVID-19 and on our staff certainly did not help. But notwithstanding, we have since altered our complaints management procedures and mechanisms, and remain optimistic that this will redound to some better customer experiences. The bank has in fact increased the communication channels that would afford customers opportunities outside of the telephone to contact us and provide their feedback, queries and issues and so on. I want to announce at this time that one way of doing that is through our WhatsApp, and we have a WhatsApp number 410-CARE, that's 410-2273, that is specific for customers who wish to provide us feedback on their customer experiences. We believe with that there will be greater effectiveness that in managing those complaints and speedier response to those complaints as we have committed to in our customer service charter.
Thank you, Mr. Duncan. If we have no other questions from the media, we're just seeking a response for a final question just coming in. What is the primary focus of the bank now and in the coming months?
Okay, well, the primary and immediate focus is building and improving on customer relationships and looking to see how we can understand how the market is evolving and the customer's needs. So we have to become more tailor-made. Mr. Moses mentioned that even after the end of the moratorium, there'll be a sort of review and it'll be done on a one-on-one basis. Well, this is the direction that we have to take things. More customized service to the customers and understanding the changing environment so we can meet their needs. There are new trends in the market. We see a lot of digital currency now, and we see a lot of online purchasing and this sort of thing. So what we are looking at is improving the efficiency of the bank, more artificial intelligence internally, so that staff could spend more time focusing on customers and increase the customer care. In addition to that, we are looking at safer delivery channels and digital financial solutions. We don't know how often these kind of pandemic type viral spreads will occur, so we have to modernize to keep up with that trend also. You know, we saw Ebola a few years ago and other things, chikungunya, so things are just spreading, and digital financial solutions are one way to provide safer and more efficient banking. And finally, ensuring the stability of the bank and the soundness of the bank. We saw within the 2008 meltdown that some smaller banks collapsed, and it was generally felt anyway with globalization and increased competitiveness that it is survival of the largest. So we have been growing the bank steadily, and we are now basically the two large banks, and there will be just less and less of the smaller type banking institutions. So we feel we are in a safe position, and we continue to grow the strength of the bank.
Thank you so much, Chairman, and a special thank you to Mr. Moses, Mr. Logie, and Mr. Duncan. Thank you again to our viewers and listeners for tuning in to this media briefing as we update you on Co-op Bank's performance for the last 6 months, ending March 31st, 2021. We encourage you to remain safe and please take all precautions that have been set out to prevent the contraction and spread of COVID-19 in Grenada. We know this is a difficult time, but the bank is here for you and we are here with you. We encourage you to visit our website at www.grenadacobank.com. You can also visit our Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube pages and stay abreast with all of our financial solutions to meet your needs and improve your customer experience and quality of life. From all of us here and Co-op Bank family, do have a wonderful day.
We set out to build something, not for us, but for you. In 1932, we set out on a mission to establish an institution that catered to the financial needs of every Grenadian. We envisioned a space where our people felt secure and welcome to do business with familiar faces. This was more than a commercial enterprise. Because we considered you to be family, we saw ourselves as building more than just a bank. We likened this establishment to a house. Since we opened our doors in 1933, you've remained with us ever since, growing with us and saving with us, but most importantly, trusting us to safeguard your interests. Through unrest and turmoil, you put your faith in us to be the shelter against adversity. Your trust is the foundation upon which we continue to build to provide stability and support for your dreams and aspirations. Your trust helped our family to grow, and as we grew, your needs grew in tandem. So we developed, expanding our accommodations to make you comfortable, transforming our humble abode to a modern center of business and commerce, while preserving our warm, friendly, family atmosphere. As we furnished our house with efficient services, you decorated our offices, walkways, and counters with smiles, love, and satisfaction, giving us the impetus to improve and do more. It took vision to build this establishment, and our vision has always revolved around the well-being of our people. It is vision that continues to guide our development, a vision of growth, a vision of expansion, a vision of the future, a vision that recognizes that the world is a global village and that technology has become an integral part of our lives. A vision that embraces the efficiencies of technology and its importance in diversifying our corporate and retail portfolios. A vision that represents your vision, your interests, and your needs. You see, we built a house, but it didn't take us long to realize that people, our people, make it home.